All right, let's take a deep dive into EIH Limited's Q3 FY25 financial results.
Sounds good.
We're looking at their official company filings. You know,
Mhm.
those things that can sometimes feel like they're written in a secret code.
Yeah.
But no worries, we're here to help decode all of it for you today.
Absolutely.
For those who maybe aren't as familiar, EIH Limited is a company behind some really well-known hotel brands.
hmm
Oberoi, Trident, just to name a couple.
Some big names.
And looking at these reports, it looks like they've had a pretty busy quarter.
Yeah.
We've got a legal battle brewing over one of their hotels,
Oh,
a major renovation project in the works,
okay.
and even a move into the London market.
Interesting.
So a lot to unpack here. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think a good place to start is with their overall financial health.
Okay.
We've got both standalone and consolidated financial results here.
Right. And, you know, just for someone like me who sometimes gets a little lost in the financial jargon, can you just quickly remind me what's the difference between those two?
Sure. So think of the standalone figures as showing us how EIH Limited is doing all on its own,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the consolidated results, those include all of their subsidiaries.
Okay.
It gives us a broader picture of the entire company's performance.
All right, so a more holistic view with
Eh.
everything all rolled up together.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's dive into those consolidated numbers then.
All right.
Their revenue from operations for Q3 FY25 was 800.17 crores. Now, that is a pretty significant jump from Q2, which, if you'll recall, was 588.99 crores.
Yeah, that's quite a leap.
What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it definitely points to strong growth,
Yeah.
especially when you consider that they also exceeded their revenue from the same period last year, Q3 FY24, which was 741.26 crores.
Wow, so they're doing better than they were a year ago as well.
It seems like their strategies are really paying off.
So things are looking pretty good. But of course, revenue is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Exactly.
We also need to look at their profitability. Did they manage to turn all of that revenue into, well, actual profit?
That's the key question. And for Q3, their consolidated profit was 278.83 crores.
Okay.
Again, that's a good increase from Q2, which was 132.70 crores.
Uh-huh.
But compared to Q3 of last year, which was 229.94 crores, the profit growth is, well, it's a little bit more modest.
Interesting. So revenue is way up, but profit growth is a bit slower. Could that be due to, like, rising operating expenses, maybe?
It's certainly something to consider.
Yeah.
While these filings don't go into a ton of detail on what they classify as other expenses,
Yeah.
it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because, you know, increased costs in various areas could be impacting their margins.
Precisely.
Okay, so a potential red flag to watch out for there. Now, let's talk about this legal battle that we mentioned earlier.
Sure.
This Wildflower Hall situation seems like it could have a big impact on EIH Limited. Can you kind of break it down for us?
Absolutely. So EIH Limited subsidiary, Mashoba Resort Limited, or MRL for short, owns the Wildflower Hall Hotel.
Right.
It's located in the Himalayas,
Beautiful location.
a gorgeous property, but they're currently in a bit of a legal tussle with the Himachal Pradesh government.
Oh.
And to make matters a bit more complicated, the Supreme Court has ordered them to vacate the property by March 31st, 2025.
Oh, wow. So they could potentially lose that entire property. That's got to sting a little bit.
Yeah, losing a property like that, especially in such a prime location, it's definitely a blow.
For sure. What are the financial implications here?
Well, as of March 31st, 2024, they've recorded a user fee obligation of 82.23 crores.
Okay.
And there are likely additional costs piling up every quarter. That's on top of course, the potential loss of future revenue from the hotel itself.
Ouch. That's a hefty sum.
It is.
But I did read that EIH Limited is not taking this lying down. They're fighting back with counterclaims of their own.
Right. That's right, they are. They're claiming profits earned by MRL, interest, on an advance. And they're also seeking the fair market value of their shares.
So it's a complex situation
Very much so.
with a lot of money at stake.
Absolutely.
And what do you think would be a fair resolution here for both sides?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a tough one because, you know, EIH Limited has clearly invested heavily in this hotel, but the government also has its own interests to consider.
Right.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out
Yeah.
and what the High Court ultimately decides.
All right. Well, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that situation. But in the meantime, it seems like EIH Limited is making some pretty bold moves, despite this legal battle hanging over their heads.
Yeah, they're not letting it slow them down.
They're expanding into the London market.
That's right.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, they have invested 240.81 crores in a new venture called EIH London Investments Limited. And it appears that they're, taking their luxury brand international.
That's a big step.
It is, and it raises a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of property are they planning? Will it be an Oberoi, a Trident, or something completely new?
Those are great questions. It really makes you wonder, like, what is their strategy for cracking the London market? It's a very competitive scene out there.
For sure.
Londoners have high expectations when it comes to luxury, so this could be a risky move.
It could be. But risk and reward, they often go hand in hand.
That's true.
So if they can successfully establish themselves in London, the potential rewards could be huge.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds, but they're not just looking abroad for Bruce, are they? What about this renovation project that we mentioned?
Right.
The Oberoi Grand in Kolkata.
Ah, yes.
The Grand Dame of Kolkata.
That's a good way to put it.
What's happening there?
Well, they've undertaken a pretty major renovation project,
Okay.
but with a bit of a twist.
To West.
Only the banquet halls are currently operational.
Really?
The rest of the hotel is closed for refurbishment.
That is unique. I wonder what the reasoning is behind that. Are they trying to, like, maintain some sort of revenue stream during the renovation?
Right.
Or is there a more strategic reason for focusing on the banquets first?
It's hard to say for sure,
Okay.
but it's definitely an interesting approach.
Yeah.
It could be that they're, testing the waters with a phased approach,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they're trying to cater to a specific demand in the local market.
Mm-hmm. Makes you think. It's like they're juggling all these different factors, Renovations, legal battles, international expansions. It's a lot for any company to handle.
That certainly is.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and look at the big picture here.
Okay.
Based on what we've seen so far, what are your initial thoughts on EIH Limited's performance this quarter?
Well, their financials are definitely showing strength, despite the challenges they're facing.
Yeah.
They're not shying away from bold moves either,
Mm.
both domestically and internationally. But there are definitely some areas of uncertainty, like the Wildflower Hall situation and the potential impact of these rising expenses that we talked about.
Right. Okay. So a mixed bag, but with a lot of potential.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Now, before we move on to part 2, I want to hear from you, the listener. What's grabbing your attention so far? Is it the impressive revenue growth, the legal drama surrounding Wildflower Hall, or maybe their ambitious expansion into the London market? Take a moment to think about that, and we'll be right back to dig a little deeper in just a moment.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into EIH Limited's Q3 FY25 results.
Glad to be back.
Before we took that quick moment to reflect, we were talking about how EIH Limited seems to be juggling quite a bit right now.
They do, yeah.
Strong financial performance, that interesting legal battle over a Wildflower Hall, and their move into the London market, which is pretty bold.
Lots going on.
Now, I know you've been looking at some analyst reports and questions surrounding these results.
I have, yes. What are the analysts most curious about? What are the big questions they're trying to answer?
Well, one of the big questions is what's really driving their revenue growth? Is this growth fueled primarily by domestic travel within India?
Yeah.
Or are we seeing a resurgence of international tourism playing a role?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, the filings don't give us a specific breakdown, unfortunately.
Right.
But maybe we can piece together some clues.
Okay, yeah. Let's play detective a little bit. What clues are you seeing?
Well, if you remember, the Oberoi Grand in Kolkata, which is one of their flagship properties,
Right.
it's currently under renovation. And only the banquet halls are open right now.
That's right, yeah.
So that suggests that domestic events and gatherings could be a significant source of revenue for them.
That makes sense. People are ready to get out and celebrate and reconnect after all those pandemic restrictions.
Exactly.
Weddings, conferences, all that kind of stuff.
So-
And if you think about the bigger picture, the luxury travel segment is really rebounding globally.
It is.
Both domestic and international travelers are, seeking out these high-end experiences.
Definitely.
So EIH Limited is in a good position to capture both of those markets
They are.
during this travel resurgence. But as you mentioned earlier, there's also that question mark around their operating expenses.
That's right.
Are they managing those effectively? Or could rising costs become a bigger problem down the road?
Well, that's a key concern for any business.
Yeah.
Especially in the luxury sector where, maintaining those high standards is essential.
Absolutely.
And while the filings don't really give us a detailed breakdown of their expenses,
Right.
we can uh, we can try to make some educated guesses based on their activities.
Okay, yeah. Walk me through your reasoning here. What are the potential pressure points when it comes to their expenses?
Well, consider the renovation of the Oberoi Grand.
Okay.
Large-scale renovations like that. They involve a significant amount of investment. Construction costs,
Mm-hmm.
materials, specialized labor, and maybe even consultant fees.
Yeah, it adds up quickly.
It does. And all of that can impact their expenses in the short term.
Definitely. And don't forget about inflation.
Oh,
I
right.
mean, the cost of everything has been going up, from basic supplies to the high-end ingredients that they use in their restaurants.
Absolutely. That's a factor, too.
So it's a balancing act for EIH Limited.
It is.
They need to invest in their properties, manage these rising costs, and at the same time maintain the quality and service that their brand is known for.
That's the challenge.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and focus on their future prospects.
Okay.
What insights can we glean from their strategic moves, particularly their expansion into the London market?
Well, their London venture is particularly interesting.
Yeah.
It suggests that they're confident in the international market,
Mm-hmm.
and they're willing to take some, calculated risks
Sure.
to expand their global presence. But entering a new market, especially one as established and competitive as London, it comes with its own set of challenges.
Right. What are some of those potential hurdles that they might face?
Well, for one, they need to really understand the preferences and expectations of London's luxury travelers.
Yeah.
What works in India or other markets might not necessarily translate to London.
That's true.
They also have to navigate a complex regulatory landscape and build those relationships with local suppliers and partners.
So it's a whole new ballgame, and they'll need to adapt quickly to succeed.
Exactly.
But if they can pull it off, the rewards could be pretty substantial.
Absolutely.
Imagine a flagship Oberoi or Trident hotel right in the heart of London, catering to a global clientele.
It's a pretty compelling vision,
It is,
but it requires, careful planning and execution.
for sure.
It'll be fascinating to see how they approach this new market.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's not forget about that other big unknown,
Mhm.
the Wildflower Hall legal battle.
Right.
That could really throw a wrench in their plans.
Absolutely. The outcome of that case could have a significant financial impact on them.
It could.
A win could really bolster their position and potentially even give them a financial boost, but a loss, well, that would mean a costly exit from a prime property.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder that even companies as successful as EIH Limited still face risks and uncertainties.
That's the nature of business, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, let's talk about EIH Limited's overall strategy.
Oh,
How would you characterize their approach to, growth and expansion?
well, based on what we've seen, I'd say they're taking a pretty balanced approach.
Yeah, okay.
They're investing in both existing properties and new ventures.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, they're navigating these complexities of the legal landscape.
It's like they're playing a multi-dimensional chess game, with moves happening on several boards at once.
That's a good analogy.
But before we explore that further, I want to bring you back into the conversation, listener. What are your thoughts on EIH Limited's strategy? Do you think they're striking the right balance between risk and opportunity? We'd love to hear your perspective. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up this deep dive and explore what the future might hold for EIH Limited.
All right, welcome back to our final part of this deep dive into EIH Limited's Q3 FY25 performance.
It's been a pretty interesting journey so far.
It really has. We've covered their solid financials, their strategic moves, and of course, that ongoing legal battle over Wildflower Hall.
Yeah, lots to consider.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's zoom out a bit and consider the bigger picture. What does all of this tell us about EIH Limited's future prospects?
Well, I think one thing that really stands out is their adaptability.
Yeah, you're right.
The hospitality industry has faced some, well, unprecedented challenges in recent years.
Absolutely.
But EIH Limited, they haven't just weathered the storm. They've
Right.
come out stronger, and they're actively pursuing new opportunities. They're not just sitting back and playing it safe. That London expansion is a pretty clear sign of that.
It is, yeah. They're aiming for a bigger stage.
And their commitment to investing in their existing properties, like the renovation of the Oberoi Grand, shows that they're not neglecting those core assets either.
Right, it's a good balance.
Yeah.
It's a smart approach.
And we can't forget about their innovative approach to that renovation,
Oh, right.
keeping those banquet halls open while the rest of the hotel is under construction.
Yeah.
That's a pretty clever way to minimize disruption and maybe even test out some new concepts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if other companies start to adopt that strategy.
It could become a trend. Speaking of trends, the luxury hospitality sector is evolving so rapidly.
It really is.
New players are emerging all the time,
Mm,
and traveler expectations are constantly changing.
definitely.
What do you think EIH Limited needs to do to stay ahead of the curve and maintain their leadership position?
Well, I think one key factor is going to be their ability to anticipate
Mm-hmm.
and respond to those evolving traveler preferences,
Mhm.
personalization, creating unique experiences.
Right.
These are becoming so important, especially in the luxury segment.
It's not just about providing a luxurious stay anymore. It's about crafting these memorable experiences that resonate with individual travelers.
Exactly.
What else is going to be crucial for their long-term success?
Well, technology is playing an increasingly important role in the hospitality industry.
Of course.
So EIH Limited is going to need to embrace those digital innovations
Yeah.
to enhance the guest experience, streamline operations, and really gain valuable insights into traveler behavior.
Right, right. I mean, you've got everything from mobile check-in
Yeah.
to those personalized concierge services and all the data-driven stuff behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Marketing,
Yeah.
revenue management, it's
Yeah.
all changing.
And then there's the whole sustainability aspect,
Oh, yes.
which is becoming a major concern for a lot of travelers these days. So
Mm.
EIH Limited is going to need to demonstrate their commitment to, environmentally and socially responsible practices.
For sure.
It's not just about luxury amenities anymore. It's
Right.
about aligning with values
Yeah,
and making a positive impact.
exactly.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought. We've explored EIH Limited's recent performance, their strategic moves, and the challenges and opportunities that they're facing. But the future, well, the future's still being written. What do you think the next chapter holds for EIH Limited? What's it going to take for them to not just survive, but to really thrive in this ever-changing landscape?
It's a great question and a tough one to answer. The luxury hospitality sector is dynamic
Mm-hmm.
and full of surprises. It'll be really interesting to see how EIH Limited continues to evolve and innovate in the years to come.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into EIH Limited. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and maybe even some food for thought. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.